In today's episode, I'm joined by Bob Burg, a well-known author and speaker, best known for his best-selling book, The Go-Giver. Bob's background started in broadcasting before he found his calling in sales, where he spent decades helping people rethink how they approach business relationships. We had a great chat about what sales really means, focusing on how it's more about serving others than pushing a product. We've discussed how building genuine connections can make or break your success, and Bob breaks down his well-known Go-Giver methodology that's helped countless businesses thrive. You'll hear about the importance of asking the right questions, listening carefully, and understanding your customer needs. Bob also touches on how this approach isn't just for face-to-face interactions, but applies to digital experiences and e-commerce too. If you're running a business trying to improve your sales processes, or just want to rethink how you're building relationships, you'll find this conversation helpful. Bob's approach to focusing on providing value and creating a long-term relationship is a mindset shift that could change how you think and how you succeed in business. Welcome to the Ecom Pulse, your heartbeat to the world of e-commerce. I'm your host, Eitan Koter. Join us as we meet with industry leaders, marketing experts, and the innovative minds behind the tech that is shaping the e-commerce future. So plug in, gear up, and get ready for a pulse-pounding journey into the heart of e-commerce. Hey Bob, good morning. I'm so excited to host you today on my show. It's been really a pleasure to having you, the Go-Giver guy. So Bob, say hello to our listeners. How are you?
Good. Hello, Eitan. Thank you so much for having me with you, and hello, everybody.
Yes. So Bob, I've been following your work for quite a while, and obviously you've been doing this for many, many years. And for the listeners who probably don't know you, tell us more about yourself and your background.
Well, my background was in broadcasting, first in radio and then television. I was a news broadcaster for a very small ABC affiliate in the Midwestern United States, but I wasn't particularly good at it. Wasn't really a journalist, and it wasn't long before I was not in broadcasting, and I got a job in sales to just to make some money. But what I found is I really enjoyed sales. I started to read lots of books and listen to tape. Back then it was tapes. This is 40 years ago when I started, and really loved the personal development aspect of sales. I love the relationship building aspect of sales, and recognizing that if you had a good product or service that you could help people to own, that you could also make a great living. So everything came together in terms of sales, and it was something I have devoted my career to.
Nice. So yes, sales, it's something that this is also my personal career. This is where I started as well. It's like probably 25 years ago. And we learned initially that sales is not about features and benefits and spray and pray those features. It's all about questioning and listening and trying to build this relationship. What is sales to you? And how is it actually evolved throughout the years? Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's the same.
Well, I see selling by definition as simply discovering what the other person needs, wants, or desires and helping them to get it. That basically is sales. The old English root of the word sell was selan, which meant to give. So when you're selling, you're literally giving. Now, someone might say, well, isn't that just, clever semantics? And I would say I don't think so, because, if you picture yourself in a sales conversation with a prospect, you are selling. So what are you giving when you're selling? Well, I suggest you're giving time, attention, counsel, education, empathy, and ultimately extraordinary value. So when we see selling as that, and we come from that foundational premise, I think we're really on the right track. Now, my basic philosophy, if you will, what I call the golden rule of sales, is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And, there's no faster, more powerful, more effective way of eliciting those feelings toward you in others than by genuinely and authentically moving from that I focus or me focus to that other focus, looking to make your win all about the other person's win, which of course you do so well, in your work, helping people to establish and cultivate those kinds of relationships.
Yes, thank you, thank you. So how do you do that? I mean, it's usually people who go to sales, they are more, I guess, focused on their own personal career, more ego-driven. How do you transform to be more empathetic, more open-minded, more focused not on yourself but on others? What are the tips that you can provide to implement? It's something that can actually quickly perceived by the other side, right? It's not something it's not a technical thing or a process you're implementing. It's your own probably way of doing things, your character. It's something that you develop and nourish throughout the years, right?
Yeah, well, let's look at one basic part of what you brought up. And you said, how do you really move from thinking about yourself to focusing on others? And I think the first thing is awareness of why it's actually more beneficial to you to focus on that other person as opposed to yourself. And here's what I used to say when I spoke at sales conferences all over. I would begin often by saying, nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet, right? They're
Nice.
not going to buy from you because you need the money. And you know what? They're not even going to buy from you just because you're a really nice person. They're going to buy from you because they believe that they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. So doesn't it make sense that the best thing you can do for you is to put yourself aside here and focus absolutely on them? And that begins, of course, by asking, with that genuine interest, but it also begins then by asking questions and really listening, right? Really listening so that you can understand what it is in their head. Because as human beings, we all see the world from our own very unique set of beliefs, right? Mm-hmm. And we tend to think that what we find to be of value is what other people find to be of value. And it's not necessarily so, which is why we've got to be able to ask those questions, really listen, and then gently and tactfully ask for clarification to make sure that we're understanding their needs, wants, and desires. It's really only at that point when we truly understand that we can then match the benefits of our product or service with their needs, wants, and desires.
It's not easy, right? I mean, sometimes people know that they need to ask questions, so they ask the question, and after like 15 seconds, 20 seconds, they just stop and move to the other question, or just, they're eager to say what they want to say, right? So
sure. Well, it's human nature.
Like counterintuitive a lot for many people.
Absolutely. It's human nature. And so we've got to, and that's where professionalism comes in.
Yeah, of course.
And that's where learning the trade and learning the skills comes in.
So when did you actually realize that this is like so fundamental for the art of selling or for the art of marketing, that listening, giving concept?
Well, I mean, first I was fortunate to read in books and listen to tapes and go to seminars where the good speakers, writers, authors, that's what they talked about. How much more important it was to ask good questions and listen than it was to just spew information, at someone. So I learned, by reading, listening, and watching. But I'll never forget a conversation I had. I'd been in sales for a couple of years, and after a slow start, I was doing quite well, and then I began working for another company, and I was in a sales slump, and I was putting pressure on myself to get out of the slump. And of course, as you know, in sales, when you're in a slump, the worst thing you can do is be focused on yourself and the sale, because again, that's not why people are buying. They're not going to buy to help me get out of a slump, right? So there was a gentleman at the company where I worked, and he wasn't in sales. I think he was in the engineering department or something, and he retired soon after. Nice guy, one of those people who didn't say a whole lot, but whenever he did, it was usually quite profound. So when he asked me, when he said, "Burg, can I give you some advice?" I immediately said, "Yes, please do. I need it." And he said, If you want to make a lot of money in sales, he said, don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, he said, you'll get a reward. And that reward will come in the form of money. And you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, he said, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It's not the target itself. Your target is serving others.
Yeah.
And, Eitan, what that said to me was that great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. The great salesmanship is never about the products or services, as important as those are. It's never what the sale's about. Really, it's about the value you're providing another human being. It's about them. We could even probably more accurately say it's about another person's life being better just because you are part of it. And I think that when we come at sales from that foundational premise, now we're really 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
Interesting. I think let's focus on B2B scenarios, right? So like in the B2B, you have this committee procurement kind of thing, and there are like the official reasons why people are buying and also the unofficial reasons, right? Let's talk about that. When you talk about value and trying to probe for pains and what are the real compelling event and drivers, there are obviously the official ones and there are also the unofficial ones.
Yeah. So first, let's look at what value is, because we often, and of course on the Go Giver, the first law is the law of value, right? And so let's look at what value is, because this is so fundamental, and yet it's a word, it's a term that's used so often, it's almost lost its meaning, right? So let's look at value as it relates to price right here, okay? Because many people think it's the same thing. It's not. In fact, the bigger differential, the better off you are. Price is a dollar figure or a dollar amount, or it could be pounds or euros or shekels or pesos or whatever. It's the price is the money asked for a product or service. It's finite. It simply is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings so much worth or value to another person that they will willingly exchange their money for it, or keep the sale going if it's a complex business-to-business sale to that next, what is it that they find to be of such value that they want to be part of this, right? And so when we talk about value, what we've got to understand is that value is never about what we think is of value. Value is always in the eyes of the beholder. It's what that person does. And depending where you are in this enterprise sale or complex sale, different people hold different reasons for it being of value. Your job as the salesperson is to ask the right questions and understand where that person is coming from. And I think it really comes down to that.
This is definitely exciting and really interesting thing. So how do you see this implemented on a direct-to-consumer scenario? Let's assume an e-commerce or a brand going directly to consumers, because what I see, for example, 2 businesses, like 2 brands in the same niche with the same product, serving the same market, they can't use the same marketing messages. They can't use the same marketing methodologies. Each one has its own story and why they started the business, and customer sentiment is also very difficult. They're very and also very different. Sorry, what are the some of the tactics or some of the processes that those businesses can implement? When they launch a new product, when they launch a new brand, right? I mean, they need to establish some kind of a foundational communication or some kind of a sentiment with potential users, right? Before actually pitching.
Yeah. Well, of course, this is where you come into play to a big extent, and you provide that, that unique advantage. But really, I think that it's utilizing the technology to create the personal relationship. And the e-commerce companies that do that best are the ones that thrive, because it still comes down to the relationship. Again, to the point that all things are basically equal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you make that person, how are you able to make that person feel special and cared about at every touch point? How do you utilize the technology to further that? See, it's when people use technology as a means to an end that it doesn't work out well.
Mm-hmm.
It's when people utilize technology to further the relationship. That's when it's fantastic.
Yeah. So you took this whole concept of giving and building a relationship before selling to like a next level. You actually build a whole methodology, and you're also wrote the Go Giver book, right? And it's obviously an international bestseller.
Thank you.
What actually, why did you decide and why you decided to make it such a full-time job for you and actually build the whole business and foundations around that? It's quite an interesting story I'd like to hear.
Thank you. Well, I was very fortunate to work with John David Mann, who was my co-author, but really he was the lead writer and storyteller, because the Go Giver is a business parable. Mm-hmm. And so, rather than being a how-to book, most of the books I've written are how-to books. I started out with a book called Endless Referrals back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. But I always thought it would be terrific if we could take the basic relationship building message and put it into a parable, because I think parables, stories, they connect on a much deeper level, on a real heart to heart level. And I know I'd always enjoyed, since I'd been in sales, always enjoyed reading parables. And but I'm not a parable writer. I'm a how-to writer. So mm-hmm. I met John because he was the editor-in-chief of a magazine I was writing for in the early 2000s. And I brought this idea to him, and he liked the idea basically. And so we took some of the aspects, the elements of Endless Referrals, but what we really did is we put it together with what we call the 5 laws of stratospheric success. And it was basically this: what is it that successful people, sustainably successful people, do and have always done since, I guess, as long as there have been market economies? Okay, what are those commonalities what are those things they did, not always knowingly? Some of them just did it very naturally. Mm-hmm. Others, and we looked at those and we said, can we put those together in a story? And the law, we call them the 5 laws of stratospheric success, and they're the laws of value, which is basically about what we talked about before. How can you focus on another person's buying experience from the moment you meet that person, from that first connection, that contact, through the relationship building process, the follow-up, the follow-through, the sales process, the referral process? How can you make every touch point spectacular? And you can't always, but you can do your best to do so. Okay. Mm-hmm. The law of compensation, which says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. And that's where utilizing technology and utilizing, how you're able to help people to reach a lot of people really comes into play. Law 3 is the law of influence, which says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first, not in a self-sacrificial way or a martyrish way, but in a way that builds everyone in the process. Again, going back to understanding the mm-hmm. reason they're buying is because they believe it will be in their best interest. Law number 4, the law of authenticity, which says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself, says, to the degree that you come at it from your true authentic core, or what we say, acting congruently with your values, okay, that's the degree that you're going to really be able to build that trust and sustain that trust. And then the 5th one is the law of receptivity. This says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving, meaning that, you breathe out, you also have to breathe in. It's not one or the other. It's both. And giving and receiving are not opposite concepts. They're simply 2 sides of the very same coin. They work in tandem. But what we realized is that, of course, the giving comes first. The giving of value comes first. That's got to be your focus. This is why John and I say that money is simply an echo of value. So to the degree you focus on the value you're providing to people, individuals, lots of people, placing their interests first, coming at it authentically, then allowing yourself to receive. And that's what successful people do.
Nice. Interesting. So this is actually the Go-Giver methodology, or the methodology is something
that's in the
that's
book.
the methodology.
That's actually from the book. Exactly.
Exactly. Okay. So the value is, what is the connection between the values and customer pains?
The customer. So what a potential customer is going to value is that which is going to help them attain their goals.
Yeah.
Right?
So I can. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, part of that can be, positive, where you help them leverage a strength they already have, but some of it is helping them solve a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a problem they may know they have, or it's a problem they may not know they have.
Yeah. So if I ask any business owner to create like top 50 customer pains in this specific category that the company operates, right? I think anyone can do that with some concentration, maybe 30 minutes, 60 minutes, we can do that, right? And then how do we take all these lists? Now, customer probably, they have a budget problem. It's usually around budget, time, operational profits, cost efficiencies. Usually it's budget issues, time issue, operational issues. So how do we learn to attach a value into it? I mean, is it through questioning? Because in a D2C scenario, for example, you cannot talk to each one of the people, right? So probably you can do surveys. How do you know what's the right value that needs to be discussed and mentioned? How do you know exactly, to probe for these issues?
So, whether you're talking business to business, B2B, or business to consumer, B2C, it's really always P2P, person to person. I mean, H to H, human to human.
There are people out there, right?
Okay? Yeah. And different people hold different things to be of value. Different people see different things as problems. Different people see different things as opportunities. And it's your job. And that's why it's called sales. I mean, that's why it's sales, because it's our job to discover that and to help them see it. One of my great friends and colleagues, Jeff West, says, when you ask the right questions, eventually your prospect is going to tell themselves what they need to hear. Understand, it's not us telling them what they need to hear. That's fine, and that's how it usually is. But how much more powerful is it when they tell themselves what they need to hear?
Yes, because if you ask the right question, they're actually giving information. They're thinking. Exactly. They're already investing energy, time, and power into explaining things. So they're investing in building this type of relationship, right?
Yeah, and that's why, Eitan, and you make a great point. That's why, to the degree that you do a great discovery, which we believe that is the most important element of the entire sales process, the entire sales conversation, to the degree you do a wonderful discovery, that's the degree that the close becomes very simple. Because you're simply asking them to take action on something they've already told you they want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of these methodologies can definitely be implemented in obviously face-to-face business meetings type of scenario, but also complete digital experience. With e-commerce,
absolutely, sure.
It's all digital journeys that are there, and it's not just sell. It's just trying to understand why people are buying from you. I think a lot of companies don't know what is the real reason why people are buying the product.
That's key. And they because they see the reason as being what they see the reason if they were the customer. One of my great friends and colleagues, Richard Wildman, who just has some wonderful books out there. His newest one is 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life. One of the things he says is, get together, over a meal if you can in person, but it can be online if it's obviously too far away or whatever, with your best customers, your most loyal customers, the ones that continually buy from you and refer you to others, and simply ask them, what is it about our company that causes you to be such a wonderful, fantastic, loyal customer? What is the value we provide?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they're going to tell you things that you hadn't even thought of, right? Because again, we all come at it from our own unique belief system, right? And so what happens is they're now telling you things that you hadn't thought of. So now you know that when you're having sales conversations with other potential customers and clients, that might be a reason for them to buy that you would never have thought of before.
Yeah. I mean, marketeers are trying and experimenting so much with so many different channels and different messaging statements and journeys and UI UX experiences. And I mean, it's an ongoing experimentation, right? I mean, that's
Sure.
And when you get to the mode of things, why people are really buying from you, you just streamline everything, and it gives you the way to quickly implement the right processes in place that touches that specific point,
Exactly.
and it's really, really informative. So I know you also run the Go Giver Success Alliance. So tell us about the alliance and how it can help businesses.
Yeah, well, we have it's an online group, an online membership, and we're shifting over now to making a lot of our online courses available as part of that membership, where they register for a year and they have total access to everything. Plus, I come on every 3 months and we do a Q&A. So it's a lot of fun. And along with my associates, Jeff West and Kim Angeli, we now do every 3 months. So quarterly, we do a live event that we call SalesWise Live, that we do at a beautiful luxury hotel in West Palm Beach. So, we're having a lot of fun with it. And that's right. At 66 years old, at this point, I just want to have fun with what I'm doing. So it's one of those nice things about age,
Yeah. You try to do it in an early stage as well. It's not so easy.
Oh, well, that's right. But there's a lot more that you'll do, when you're younger that you might not do when you get older, like me. And, so, at this point, it's just, so I'm not on the road speaking anymore. I don't get on airplanes anymore. I haven't for 2 years now. So while I do some keynotes that are online, virtual keynotes and so forth, unless the event is in Florida, I don't even go anymore. So it's
yeah, I mean, you can be everywhere from your laptop, right? Nice. So, Bob, if we need to do a quick summary of various things we've discussed, and in your own word, trying to provide some practical tips to business owners out there, what would be a good and a practical summary of your methodology?
I think it all comes down to this: that shifting your focus. Okay, and I think this is where it all begins. And you and I were talking about this earlier. Shifting your focus from getting to giving. And again, when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others. Understanding that doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it is the most financially profitable way as well.
Wow, interesting. And Bob, how people can find you?
Best thing to do is just go to Burg, BURG.com. And while they're there, they can subscribe to my daily impact email that I send out Monday through Friday mornings.
Yes, it's really amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Great. Bob, anything else you want to add?
No,
on business, on life, anything?
No, I appreciate being with you and having this discussion. And again, I love the work you're doing, because what it really does is it helps people create that relationship faster than they could without you and without your services. So I just ask you to keep up the great work you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the power of video, right? I mean, it's really a form of communication and media, which is very, very powerful. And if it's been doing it in the right way, evaluating the various stages of the company, it can expedite things so fast to actually creating conversion in a really nice way. So, Bob, I really appreciate your time. It was really interesting and a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. Your support means the world to us. If today's episode has been insightful for you, consider sharing it with someone who would also benefit. Even one share can make a big difference. Looking to elevate your e-commerce game? Discover Vimy, a multi-channel e-commerce platform that will transform your business with the power of shoppable video. Visit us at vimy.net to learn more. It's Vimy, VIMMI.net. Thank you for being part of our journey. Stay tuned for more invaluable insights in our next episode.